Hi there, and welcome to your Sunday here on TCM. I'm Alicia Malone, and as the saying goes, there are different strokes for different folks. So today's lineup is a varied list of films that has a little something for everyone. The one thing they do have in common, they are all set in Europe. We begin our afternoon with a whodunit drama from 1959 directed by Basil Dearden called Sapphire. It's set in 1950s London with the title referring to the name of a young woman who has been murdered. The investigation, led by inspectors played by Nigel Patrick and Michael Craig, reveals underlying racist prejudices that are ready to boil over. The film was produced in England and made not long after the 1958 riots in what later became the Notting Hill neighbourhood of London. If you know your UK history, that was a days-long incident that involved racially motivated attacks from young white men toward West Indian and black residents. Although those events didn't directly influence our story, it did make this a timely and much talked about film when it was released. And unfortunately, it's a theme that has remained all too relevant ever since. Sapphire is among the many socially conscious British dramas of the time which had a much more realistic setting and feel than films from previous decades. They were shot on location, often in grittier areas, and dealt with many of the socio-economic problems the younger generation was experiencing. The films were initially inspired by urban documentary shorts from the mid-1950s that were made under the banner of British free cinema. Like other cinema movements, it was led by film critics who themselves would go on to direct some of the Angry Young Man feature films just a few years later. The director of our film is Basil Dearden, and the supporting cast includes Paul Massey, Earl Cameron, and Yvonne Mitchell. It's a film that will keep you guessing right up until the end. So let's get into it. From 1959, it's Sapphire. Although Sapphire didn't necessarily make big waves at the box office in the US, it did receive good marks from critics, and it went on to win the BAFTA, that's the British version of the Academy Award, for the Best British Film of 1959. It's also a great example of how cinematography can impact the atmosphere of a movie. The man behind the camera is London-born Harry Waxman, and his photography choices greatly enhanced the two different worlds in the story. The everyday scenes were filmed in the middle of winter and shot in more muted tones and in confined spaces that helped showcase the grittiness of the city. Whereas Sapphire's underworld had a different colour tone of deep blues and oranges, adding great contrast and character to those scenes. And speaking of different worlds, our next film is set in a nightclub where patrons can escape the many troubles of Nazi-era Germany. It's an Oscar-winning musical starring Liza Minnelli in 1972, so stay with us.
Next on TCM, Cabaret, then An American in Paris, and later, Waterloo Bridge. TCM is getting over it today.